What's up, guys? Theo here, doing a quick prediction for Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Shamil Gaziev. So right now, Gaziev is a minus 205 favorite, and the comeback on Jairzinho Rozenstruik is plus 150 on DraftKings. And guys, I like Shamil Gaziev here. I think it's a bad stylistic matchup for Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And although Rozenstruik has pretty good combinations, pretty fast hands, and decent knockout power, I just think he's really technically outmatched here in terms of the grappling. You know, I don't think that Gaziev has necessarily the best stand-up, but he is definitely serviceable on the feet. He has TKO'd his fair share of people. He has a lot of power. He's not afraid to go forward. And is he the better striker than Rozenstruik? No. But the problem here is that Rozenstruik's grappling is almost non-existent. Every time that he's been taken down by anybody that has any kind of a ground game in the last few fights, he just looks completely hopelessly outmatched. I mean, Jailton Almeida, he got taken down. He got basically toppled over with a double leg in the first round. The second he went to the ground, he immediately looked over to his coach. That was like the first thing he immediately did, which is a bad sign. That makes it look like he's looking like, hey, what do I do here? So, I mean, just that's a bad sign in and of itself, is that he looks like he is basically like, oh shit, whenever I get taken down, like now I'm in trouble. You know, I think back to the Curtis Blaydes fight. Curtis Blaydes didn't finish him in that fight from what I remember, but I remember that being maybe one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in my life. Curtis Blaydes took him down and basically wet blanket laid on top of him for like 5 rounds or something. God, that fight was torture to watch. He just has absolutely no answer when he goes to the ground. He doesn't ever look like he's fighting. He's not doing any kind of like jiu-jitsu techniques to try to get up. He's not using any kind of like counter wrestling, counter grappling. He literally just seems to be able to basically survive. That is about it. And he doesn't even survive for very long when he does get taken down to the ground. So I like Rozenstruik, but I just don't think he's going to win this. You know, even if he does have the better striking, is able to implement that, and even if Gaziev does not immediately take him down, which I think Gaziev's smart, I think he will, you got to think, like, Rozenstruik's going to be thinking about that takedown the entire time when he's standing. He's not fighting another striker here. Gaziev is a pretty sufficient chain wrestler, cage wrestler. He likes to push people against the cage. He likes to circle them against the cage. He likes to drag people down. He has his fair share of submissions. This is just a good fight for him because he's going up against an opponent who has no real answer for what he's going to do on the ground. And I heard another capper say that they heard Rozenstruik say that he had been training wrestling a lot lately. Guys, you can't train enough wrestling. If you're already in the UFC and you have shown complete deficiencies in the ground game, you're not going to be able to really close that gap, especially if you're someone like Rozenstruik who's already an established martial artist. He's not suddenly going to like get way better on the ground. It doesn't matter if he's training with the best grapplers in the world. If he's going up against somebody who has been training with grapplers since they started mixed martial arts, he's going to be outclassed here. So, given that Rozenstruik's only real path to victory here is blitzing him and knocking him out with a really fast combination, and we haven't seen Gaziev get knocked out, I got to go with Gaziev here, man, because he's got the styles to win this fight. And guys, there's another element to this that maybe if you listen to a lot of my videos, you've heard me touch on this before very briefly, but I do track underdog and favorite outcomes. I have some of my own data that I compile on my own just out of pure curiosity. And guys, we've had, I think 3 or 4 underdog main events hit in a row. And so if you don't track stats, it's pretty unlikely to have 4 main events have an underdog winner in a row. And not only have we had 3 underdog main event winners in a row before this, we have had 10 cards where there has not been a full run of favorites on the main card. So what I do is I track main cards and the outcomes of the underdogs and the favorites that win on those cards. And generally, based on my calculations and the data that I have and my own anecdotal observations, you get about 1 in every 5 cards you have all favorites on the main event win. There are periods where you go through where it's more volatile than that, less volatile than that, but generally, as a rule of thumb, 1 in about every 5 cards, you're going to have all of the favorites win in the main event. It doesn't matter how many fights are on the main event, doesn't matter who's fighting in the main event, it's just a statistical thing that occurs. And we have had 10 main events in a row now where none of it hasn't been the favorite sweep. So that's telling us that we're 2 times as likely on this card to have all the favorites in the main event win. Or in the main card win, not the main event, my bad. But it also statistically points to the fact that Gaziev is live to win this fight as the favorite, the betting favorite. So I don't talk about statistics very much because I don't like them. I feel like they can be very misleading. And there's not an exact science to it. The only exact science with gambling is randomness. So trying to project statistical likelihoods based on things like that, it's you're not likely to do well based on that all the time. But I would feel very confident in saying that if there's a card where all the favorites are going to hit, look at the matchups on the main event here, on the main card here. I mean, what does your gut tell you? We've gone twice as long without a normal statistical occurrence of all favorites winning. And we conveniently have a card lined up for us here where we have a bunch of massive favorites on the main, and nobody can really make a super great argument for any of the underdogs here. So I think there's a good chance that we see all of the favorites in the main event or in the main card hit here. And I think there's a good statistical likelihood that we see the main event favorite win as well in Shamil Gaziev. So he has the statistics on his side. He has the technical skills on his side. Give me Gaziev here, guys. Keep it locked in. Can't wait for UFC 299 next week. I'm going to have a lot of reads on that one. Yeah, let's get some money tomorrow, guys.